sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so let's dive into this PlayStation Network outage you sent me.
Yeah.
We've got some articles and even some live Reddit feeds to like try to help figure out what's going on. Seems like things are pretty intense right now for PlayStation users.
Yeah. This is a big one.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like a little bit of downtime.
Yeah.
This outage affects pretty much anything that needs your PlayStation to connect online.
Yeah.
So like managing your account, the PlayStation Store,
Right.
online gaming,
Oh, wow.
all down.
And it's been down for a while, right?
Yeah.
I read it started like 15 hours ago.
Yeah, about that.
So that puts it among the worst outages the PSN has ever seen.
Oh, for sure.
Some people are even comparing it to that cyber attack back in 2011.
Right.
That knocked the network offline for almost a month.
Yeah. That 2011 attack was a defining moment for Sony.
Yeah.
They had to like completely rebuild user trust
Wow.
and like completely overhaul their security.
Oh, wow.
But what's interesting here is that even with all the lessons they learned from that event,
Right.
the complex nature of online services means that new vulnerabilities can still emerge.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the challenges of maintaining these like large-scale networks.
Yeah, it really does make you wonder, like, how do they even approach that, you know?
Right.
So where do things stand right now? What's the latest?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
Sony's been pretty quiet,
Oh, really?
which is frustrating a lot of users.
Yeah.
They're just seeing a generic system maintenance message,
Huh.
which is met with a lot of skepticism
Yeah.
because maintenance is usually announced in advance
Right.
and doesn't last this long.
Yeah, that lack of communication is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you think they'd want to keep their users in the loop?
You would think.
Especially considering how heavily people rely on PSN for their gaming.
You would think so.
Yeah.
Transparency is crucial in situations like this. Totally. Without clear communication. It's no wonder users are turning to places like Reddit for updates and to share their experiences.
Yeah, Reddit seems to be the go-to spot right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fascinating to see how quickly gamers are providing real-time updates and helping each other out.
It speaks volumes about the power of online communities.
Yeah.
In the absence of official word,
Yeah.
they become the source for information and support.
It's like they've created their own news network,
Yeah.
sharing what's working, what's
Yeah.
not, and just generally venting their frustration.
Sure.
Like, I saw that one user mentioned they could get some digital games to work,
Okay.
but another one was completely locked out of the Monster Hunter Wilds beta.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine how frustrating that would be?
That's a perfect example of how this outage goes beyond just like inconvenience.
All right.
For those who are looking forward to that beta,
Yeah.
it's a real letdown.
Oh, yeah.
It really highlights the impact these outages have,
Yeah.
especially for those who use their consoles for more than just casual gaming.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that online services,
Yeah.
for all their convenience, can be really fragile.
For sure.
And when they go down, it affects us in ways we might not anticipate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take PSN's license verification system.
Right.
It's in place to prevent piracy,
Yeah.
but it also creates a kind of dependence on the network.
Right.
Even if you want to play a single-player game offline,
Right.
you might be locked out because the system needs to verify that you own the game.
Right.
So even if you're not trying to play online with others,
Yeah.
you're still at the mercy of the network.
That's right.
That brings up some interesting questions about the balance between security measures and user access,
Yeah.
especially in these situations.
For sure.
While we wait for Sony to shed some light on the situation,
Right.
there have been a few glimmers of hope.
Okay.
The PlayStation app seems to be back online for many users,
Okay.
and there are whispers of people getting into games that don't require a PSN login.
Huh.
So have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. So some members of comicbook.com's staff
Okay.
reported they were able to boot up those types of games,
Oh, wow.
which suggests that a fix might be on the way.
Okay.
It's not a total victory,
Right.
but it is a positive sign.
It's like finding an oasis in a digital desert, right?
Sure.
The situation is definitely evolving, but the fact that some digital games are working is a hopeful sign that a full resolution could be coming soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in the midst of these large-scale outages,
Mm-hmm.
there are often dedicated teams working behind the scenes to restore service.
Yep.
We don't always see their efforts,
Right.
but they are there battling the digital gremlins.
That's right.
Hopefully those digital gremlins get squashed soon.
I hope so.
But This whole outage raises some bigger questions, too.
Yeah.
What does this say about our reliance on online services?
Yeah.
Is this just a blip, or are we headed toward bigger problems as we depend more and more on the internet for everything?
That's a question worth exploring further.
Yeah.
This outage could be a preview of challenges to come
Oh, wow.
as our lives become ever more intertwined with the digital world.
And maybe it's a good time to reflect on what we can do to prepare for those challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, would you agree?
It's a great opportunity to think about the role of technology in our lives.
Yeah.
And consider how we can be more resilient when those systems inevitably falter.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's unpack that a bit more after we check in with our listeners.
Okay.
What are your initial thoughts on this outage? What stands out to you the most?
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how people are reacting to this outage. It
Yeah.
really underscores the fact that we've become so accustomed to instant access.
Uh-huh.
And when that's disrupted,
Right.
it can be a real shock to the system.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like we take these services for granted until they're suddenly gone.
Right.
And then it's like, wait, I can't do what I want when I want.
Exactly.
Like I read some comments on Reddit where people were jokingly suggesting that they'd have to, dust off an old board game or something. Oh, horror.
Right. But on a serious note,
Yeah.
it is interesting to think about how this might push some people to reconnect with those offline activities.
Right?
Maybe this forced digital detox, however frustrating,
Uh-huh.
could be a chance to rediscover some of those analog joys.
It's a silver lining for sure.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even though the digital world offers incredible possibilities,
Right.
it's important to have balance and not become completely reliant on a single system or technology.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's like putting all your eggs in one digital basket and then suddenly the basket disappears.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a wake-up call to diversify our entertainment options, just in case.
Exactly. And to develop a bit more digital resilience, so to speak.
Okay.
It's about having backup plans,
Yeah.
understanding the limitations of technology,
Right.
and not being afraid to unplug every now and then.
Speaking of limitations,
Yeah.
let's circle back to Sony for a moment. Their ongoing silence about this outage is definitely a big part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, from a user experience perspective,
Yeah.
it's definitely not ideal.
Yeah.
When a service you depend on goes down,
Mm-hmm.
you want clear and timely communication.
Right.
Silence just breeds speculation and frustration.
And it makes you wonder if they're downplaying the severity of the issue.
It could be.
Are they just trying to avoid bad PR?
It's hard to say for sure, but the lack of transparency can definitely erode trust.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like they're not prioritizing their users' concerns.
Which is ironic considering they built a whole ecosystem around connecting with other gamers.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this situation highlights the challenges of maintaining that connection when things go wrong.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most sophisticated systems are vulnerable to disruption.
Yeah. It also makes you appreciate the role that communities like Reddit play in filling those communication gaps.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of collective intelligence
Mm-hmm.
and shared experience.
Right.
People are coming together to support each other, share information,
Right.
and even just vent their frustrations.
And sometimes just knowing you're not alone in your frustration can make a big difference.
Oh, for sure.
It's like a virtual support group for stranded gamers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of solidarity, even in the midst of a digital crisis.
Right.
And it can be a powerful force for holding companies accountable
Uh-huh.
and demanding better service.
Speaking of better service, are there any signs that things are starting to improve?
There are a few, glimmers of hope.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, the PlayStation app is back online for many users.
Okay.
And there are reports of some online games coming back online sporadically.
So maybe the digital storm clouds are starting to part?
It's too early to say for sure, but those are positive indicators.
Okay.
It suggests that progress is being made even if it's slow going.
While we wait for the digital dust to settle, I think it's worth taking a step back and considering the bigger picture.
Sure.
What lessons can we learn from this outage?
Yeah.
What does it tell us about our relationship with technology and the importance of being prepared for these kinds of disruptions?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that I think everyone should be pondering
Right.
as we integrate technology more deeply into our lives.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of its limitations
Right.
and potential points of failure.
It's like we're building these amazing digital cities, but we're forgetting to reinforce the foundations.
Yeah.
And when those foundations crack, it can impact everything.
It's a powerful analogy,
Yeah.
and it underscores the need for both individual and collective resilience.
You know what I mean by that?
Well, on an individual level,
Okay.
it's about having backup plans,
Yeah.
diversifying our entertainment options,
Right.
and not becoming overly reliant on any single technology
Right.
on a collective level.
Yeah.
It's about demanding more transparency from the companies that provide these services.
Yeah. So,
Investing in robust infrastructure.
right.
And fostering a culture of digital literacy and critical thinking.
So it's not just about fixing this particular outage.
Yeah.
It's about building a more resilient digital future.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this outage, however disruptive it may be,
Yeah.
can serve as a catalyst for that conversation.
It's like a digital wake-up call, reminding us that even in a world of instant connectivity and seamless experiences,
Right.
things can and do go wrong. And when they do, we need to be prepared.
We need to be adaptable, resourceful, and maybe even a little bit old-fashioned in our approach to preparedness.
Old-fashioned in what way?
Well, remember those days when we used to have physical copies of games,
Yeah.
books, and movies?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to revisit that concept,
Okay.
at least to some extent.
Uh-huh.
Having offline backups of the things we value
Yeah.
can provide a sense of security and peace of mind in a world where digital access can be fleeting.
That's an interesting thought. It's like having a digital safety net just in case.
Right.
But what about those who can't afford to have both digital and physical copies of everything?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it highlights the issue of digital equity.
Right.
Not everyone has the same level of access to technology
Right.
or the resources to create those offline backups.
Right.
That's something we need to address as we move forward.
It's like we need to make sure that digital resilience isn't just a luxury for the privileged few, but a fundamental right for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation that goes beyond the scope of this particular outage.
Right.
But it's one that we need to have
Yeah.
as we navigate the complexities of the digital age.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
what's a key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say it's this.
Okay.
The PSN outage, while frustrating,
Yeah.
is an opportunity to reflect on our relationship with technology,
Uh-huh.
to think critically about our digital habits, and to take steps to become more resilient in a world where online services are both a blessing and a potential point of vulnerability.
Well said.
Yeah.
And for our listeners out there, what are your thoughts on this? What are your biggest takeaways from this outage?
Yeah.
What steps are you taking to ensure your own digital resilience?
Yeah. It's amazing to see how this outage has sparked such a thought-provoking conversation.
It really has.
It really highlights the importance of engaging in these kinds of discussions,
Yeah.
even when they stem from frustrating circumstances.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's through these conversations that we can collectively learn,
Right.
adapt, and build a more resilient digital future.
So as we kind of approach the end of our deep dive into this PSN outage, let's shift gears a bit and talk about what seems to be happening right now.
Yeah, let's touch on the current status.
Yeah.
While Sony is still keeping things pretty close to the vest,
Okay.
there are more and more reports coming in that suggest things are starting to come back online. It seems like that trickle of good news we mentioned earlier has turned into more of a steady stream. The PlayStation Network service status page, which was showing outages across the board,
Right.
is now indicating that most services are up and running.
That's a definite sign of progress.
Yeah.
It seems like those digital repair crews have been working diligently behind the scenes, and their efforts are starting to pay off.
Yeah, it must be a huge relief for all those gamers who have been patiently waiting to get back online.
I bet.
I imagine there are still some lingering frustrations, though,
Right.
especially given Sony's lack of communication throughout this whole ordeal.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
Transparency and communication are essential for building trust.
Right.
And Sony has some work to do to regain the confidence of its user base.
That's true, but for now it seems like the immediate crisis has been averted.
It seems so.
The digital storm clouds are parting and the sun is starting to peek through.
It's a welcome sight for sure. And while we can breathe a sigh of relief that things are returning to normal,
Right.
let's not forget the lessons we've gleaned from this experience.
Right. This wasn't just a temporary inconvenience.
Yeah.
It was a reminder of our interconnectedness, our dependence on technology, and the importance of being prepared for those moments when the digital world throws us a curveball.
It's a reminder that even in a world that's increasingly digital,
Right.
we need to cultivate those analog skills of resilience, adaptability, and resourcefulness.
We need to be able to think critically, solve problems creatively, and connect with each other in meaningful ways, both online and offline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are skills that will serve us well no matter what challenges the digital future may hold.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us and offering your insights.
Of course, it's been a pleasure.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.